Everyone, welcome. Oh, wow, that was so easy. Hi, welcome. I'm Michelle Richards. I'm Director of Programming here at Immaculate Heart, and I'm just so happy to be here with you all today, just talking with the guests here, realizing that we're all feeling the weight of what's happening in our city and our country these days, and how grateful I am, and many others voiced how grateful we are to be in community with each other. And so I want to encourage you after the event to talk to each other, because there's a lot of cross-pollination that can happen that can benefit all of us. So with that, I just want to say welcome. A little bit of housekeeping. The restrooms are out either door. If you go out those doors to the left, and to the left on through these doors also. I want to welcome everyone on Zoom. Thank you. We feel your presence, even though you couldn't be with us in the room today. And I want to thank Chef Tim for the fabulous food, and everybody who worked in the whole stream of getting that food to our tables. We're really acutely aware of that when there's a breakdown. So recognizing the workers who make all this possible, everyone who works at St. Paul's, who makes this place so beautiful and welcomes us every month. Every month we do have lunch and learns, and there's information on the back table. Please take it so you can come and watch Rebel Hearts. Lastly, I'll introduce Sherry Purcell, the president of Immaculate Heart Community, who will talk to you a little bit more about all the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So welcome everybody to Lunch and Learn. We're going to start a little bit differently than we typically do today. I think as Michelle indicated, it's been kind of a rough road in LA and in our country recently. And so I'm going to start with a little bit of a reflection. And this is going to give you a hint about a new initiative that we're calling Power Up. So I'm going to ask you to engage in a couple minutes of silence, if you will, and power up. And this is the way it goes. So just close your eyes if you want to, your feet on the floor, bring yourself to presence for a few minutes. And if you will, put your hand over your heart and breathe deeply into your heart a couple of times. And as you're doing that, power up your heart with love. Power it up, power it up. And as you've powered up, begin to send that energy of love to the people at your table, to the people in this room. And then power up and send it out to the LA community, to the people who are suffering, the people who are afraid, people who are in hiding. Extend that love out to the rest of our country, a country that's struggling now to embrace its values and to know who it is. Power up and send that love to the areas of the world that are in war zones. And finally, send it to Mother Earth. Mother Earth is struggling as we speak. So we ask that you think about powering up every day at some time during the day, and do that same exercise to pray in your own tradition. But let's try to send some love and some light out into this dark world. Thank you. One of the ways we power up in the Immaculate Heart community is by holding these lunch and learns, because we have wonderful speakers who are doing the work, who are engaging with people on the margins and helping people become more human in this world. And so we leave from this place with hope So we power ourselves up with hope. We have a lot of new people here today, and we're so glad to see new faces, and thank you for being here. Our Lunch and Learns happen every month on a Friday, and we hold these Lunch and Learns to live out our goal statement in the Immaculate Heart community, which calls us to foster access of all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and to strategically change practices and situations which impede such access. So by coming together here with other nonprofits, all of you who are working in different fields, we feel like we're strategically starting to change some practices. If you don't know our history, please watch Rebel Hearts, which is a documentary on Prime. We're going to be having a showing of that at the Regal Theater in July as part of the LA Shorts International Film Festival. So check out our website and you'll get more information about that. If you don't know about us, we originated in Spain as a Catholic order of nuns, which changed in the 1970s when we formed a lay community. We're no longer nuns. We do not live in a convent. We're a community without walls. We are inclusive of men, women, gay, straight, married, single. We're all over the United States and Canada and in England right now. And we are a group of people who believe in God and who live out our faith through our justice and our social justice work. So today we are welcoming Annie Buckley. Her bio is amazing to me. So Annie Buckley is a multidisciplinary artist, writer, and the founding director of the Institute for the Arts, Humanities, and Social Justice at San Diego State University, where she's a professor of visual studies. She's the founder and director of Prison Arts Collective, which has brought the arts to over 8,000 people in prisons since 2013. PAC is based on the belief in art as a human right and dedicated to expanding access to the arts and leadership to people experiencing incarceration. She's also the founder and director of VISTA, Valuing Incarcerated Scholars Through Academia. VISTA grew out of her work with the Prison Arts Collective and as a response to the need for higher education in prisons. Through VISTA, San Diego State University provides BA degree programs for incarcerated scholars in interdisciplinary studies and journalism. Annie is the recipient of numerous awards and grants, including from the Mellon Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the California Arts Council, and the California State Senate. She's a graduate of UC Berkeley and has an MFA from Otis College of Art and Design. As I was learning about Annie's work, I couldn't help but reflect on the involvement of our affiliate, the Creta Arts Center, with the Venice Biennale in Italy last year. Not only did Pope Francis invite the Creta Arts Center to exhibit Creta Kent's artwork, the show was held in a women's prison in Venice, Italy, and the Art Center did various art projects with the women during the duration of the exhibit. So we have a real direct connection there, and we're getting you in touch with Nellie and the Creta Art Center soon. So we know art in all its forms can be transformative and healing. And the IHC recognizes that art can be a spiritual path for many people who engage in the reflection and the surrender that can be part of the process of creating art. Annie's work deeply aligns with the goals of the community in her efforts to foster full human development for incarcerated individuals through the power of making art. And we are very pleased to bring her work to your attention today. So as you listen to Annie, consider how you might get involved with the Creta Arts Collective or contribute to their work. So please join me in welcoming Annie Buckley.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet. Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, you can hear me that way. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored and grateful. That's like my more official bio and your beautiful addition. But also, I'm a graduate of Immaculate Heart, and some fellow pandas are here in the house, which I'm so excited to see. And it's just all of us, like, I don't want to speak for y'all, but I know for, my friends and I, and we're still, like, some of my best friends in this world I met at Immaculate Heart Middle School and High School, and they're still around here in the room, many of them, and others maybe on Zoom and out in the space. So it was just a beautiful experience. And so it's so beautiful to be here with you all today. So thank you. Let's see. Okay, I was trying to see if there was something else I was going to add. Oh yeah, I did want to add one other thing. So in the pictures that you see here on the left, it's at the women's prison in Chino, and it's one of our collaborative art projects that we did several years ago. It was one of my grad students when I was teaching at Cal State San Bernardino, actually, who led that project, and it was this beautiful mandala. And then on the right, that was just last May, and it was our very first graduation at Centinela State Prison of the bachelor's degree from San Diego State. So such a moment of joy and triumph for those students to get their bachelor's degree while they're in prison. So that's what that is. So yeah, I grew up here in LA, still live here now as well, moved back recently and go to San Diego frequently, as well as to the Imperial Valley. Also went to 3rd Street School and then Immaculate Heart, so definitely a product of LA Public Unified and UC, as well as Immaculate Heart. And when I first graduated from Berkeley, I moved back here. My parents have both passed, but at the time they were here and my father was very sick, so I wanted to be in the area, and I was so grateful and lucky to be around at that time. And my first job out of college was at Hoover Street School. So it's a public school in Pico Union. It was the biggest elementary school in LA Unified at the time. We had like 3,000 kids. And I grew up in Hancock Park, so I only lived like 10 minutes away, but it was such a vastly different experience. And as a young artist and teacher, it just really opened my eyes, like, wow. I mean, I knew, of course, having been in the world and gone to Immaculate Heart and gone to Berkeley, like I knew that people lived different lives and had different experiences, but it really opened my eyes, and it really started my, I would say at this point, pretty much lifelong mission of expanding access to the arts and education to people who don't have those same opportunities and the kind of depth of experience that I had the opportunity to have. So that's just a little bit about me. Oh, also my first year teaching, this will tell you how long ago it was, we had a big LA teacher strike. So I was like this 21-year-old marching. And then we had the LA riots. So that was the first year teaching. So, and I had, yeah, very interesting. And I had about 20 kids who spoke only Spanish, about 7 kids who spoke only English, and then a bunch mixed, and it was just a wild first year experience. So it really taught me a lot, and it was a pleasure. I absolutely loved it. So anyway, that's just a little history, and I'm gonna share a little bit of my art too, and then I'm gonna dive into PAC. Oh, I guess that was what I was supposed to have when I was saying that, sorry. So yeah, this is just a little bit more about me, and also the Foundation for Prison Arts Collective, which is this idea of expanding access to the arts. And for myself, I have made a choice to teach only in public educational institutions, and so that's what I've done for my life. So this is a little bit of my art. I'm not gonna really go into this, but just to give a little picture. This is like what's called participatory art or socially engaged art, which is what I've been doing for the past probably like 10 plus years. This piece on the left is actually a little small cut photo that I did, and it's through another colleague, Tucker Neal. He had a postcards piece where he took different people's artwork all across the country and photographed their artwork in different spaces. So I just thought that was such a perfect one for our moment in time now for some reason. So that's why that's there. And then on the right is a project I did called Pollinating Kindness, which the idea is kindness this immaterial thing as a material for art. And so these paper butterflies were like a vehicle to pass along these acts of kindness that people would participate in. And that is at Off-Ramp Gallery in Pasadena, but it was all over the world. And then I also do a lot of writing and art. This is a book that I wrote called Mayday, and then it was an art series of art pieces of women turning into trees. And then this is a project called People's Tarot. I did created a tarot deck and then did readings with it. It's really fun. It was a really amazing project. And then on the top is an exhibition. That's actually Heather Cantrell and her work, but it's an exhibition that I co-curated with my friend John Souza, based on a book that I wrote called Psychic Outlaws. So you can see like the collaboration and the overlap and like turning words into images and inviting other people into the process. That's pretty much how I work. So those are a few examples. And then I was lucky to curate an exhibition way back in 2013 called Bridging Homeboy Industries. My mother, my late mother, who's very much an inspiration to all of this today, so I won't say more about that because I'll probably cry. But anyway, she helped me with this, and she was very good friends with Father Greg Boyle. He was her mentor and friend. And we went and talked to him and said, what can, I want to do art and help Homeboy, what can I do? And he was like, well, these guys, they make all this art. How about helping them show it in the world? So as a result, I created this show. My mom was very much a part of it. We did it together. And it's 3 artists who you see over here, Juan Carlos Munoz Hernandez, Fabian Deborah, and Alex Kizu, who are all actually doing amazingly right now. Fabian is the founder of Homeboy Art Academy, and Juan Carlos just had a show that just closed, and Alex has murals all over the world. So pretty exciting to see them all expand and take off. And then lastly, this is a show that I curated in 2019 called Disruption, Art and the Prison Industrial Complex. Sorry, I can't decide which way to look. I'll look this way. And it was at Pitzer College Art Galleries, and they invited me to curate a show relating to art and prisons. And I said, I really want to do that, but only if I can include contemporary artists who are currently incarcerated and who are not, because oftentimes they're separated, like it's the artist from the prison, and then it's like the artist making art about prison. But I just wanted them all in one show, and that's what they were happy to have me do, and it was really rewarding. All right, so that's a little bit about me to give you some context for what I'm here to speak about, which is Prison Arts Collective. So our mission is to expand access to the arts to people who are currently incarcerated and impacted by the carceral system, and specifically the idea of transformative power of the arts. So the arts as a form of community building and wellness. So I would say more so process over product, though of course there's beautiful art products that come out of it as well. In the back, you'll see on that easel, one of the pieces, and then on the table as well, another piece by some of the artists in our program. And then there's also a book that you can look through. So sorry for Zoomers, some of you Zoomers, I know some of that work and helped me gather it. So thank you if you're on the call from my team. But also, if you want to look through, those of you in the room after, there's a lot of pieces to look at. And our vision is that, like, if we were 100% successful, our vision would be that we live in a collaborative, inclusive society where everyone has access to the arts to promote well-being and empowerment. So this is just a little, I'm not going to go into depth here because I feel like probably everyone in this room is pretty aware of this, but just to give a little context of the prison system in the United States so you have a sense of like who it is that we're working with and talking about. We do, as you probably know, have the highest concentration of people who are incarcerated in the entire world here in the US. We have approximately 1.9 million people as of now who are incarcerated across prisons and jails and federal prisons. The rate, US incarceration rate, sorry, what was I going to say, 664 per Yeah, highest venue in the world. Okay, so that's the main thing of the first one. The other thing that I think is really important to know, and one of the main reasons that I got involved beyond, Father Greg's influence and my mother's influence, because she worked in juvenile hall for nearly 20 years as a volunteer. So they influenced me personally, but also before I started this, I was writing, like as a writer, you have to make a living. So I was writing a lot of books, and I had the opportunity to write a lot of nonfiction books, which was really special and really cool. And one of them was a book for high school students on racism. And that's where I first came across the statistics of the structural racism in our carceral system. And it was mind-blowing. So that really is something that I think that we are all, I don't know, I don't want to say like culpable in, but like it is part of our country, and it is something that I think is really important to be aware of and to work towards change. So the percentage of Black Americans in the general population is 13%, and the percentage in jails and prisons is 37%. And that continues across the board with people in poverty, people who are Latino, people with limited educational background. So it's a very disjointed system. Is probably a diplomatic way to say it, but okay. So with that, I want to bring in the voices of some of our team. We are very, very much a collective and a collaborative. If you work collaboratively, it's not always clean and pretty. It's like complicated and messy and beautiful, and you have to make sure everybody knows what's happening all the time. And I'm so blessed. Like I have just absolutely the most incredible team, and it's grown quite a lot in the past 10 years. Very recently, we made a documentary. Very excited, it's just finished. No one has seen it all yet. I don't even think I've seen the full final cut, but it is done. And throughout, I have a few clips so that you can hear from others from our team. So this is Mark Taylor, who I met in 2017 when he was a student in one of my classes for Prison Arts Collective when he was in Ironwood State Prison. He has since gotten out. He and I both went together to the State Senate where we received an award for Prison Arts Collective in 2019. And he has since got a BSW and an MSW from Cal Poly Humboldt and founded our chapter of Prison Arts Collective there.
In an environment that thrives off of separation, like how do you bring people together? How do you make the prison system more safe? Sometimes that starts with creating a smaller safe space, and then your participants are the ones going out to the yard, being voice of reason on the yard and helping reduce violence.
So that's the title of our documentary, and thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Brooke, I think is on the call for helping make sure we could all hear them. I was like, are we gonna hear them? And of course we are, so thank you both so much. So we did begin in 2013, so just a little bit of history. We were at one prison in Chino, a men's prison, and since then we have grown to offer programming in 17 California state prisons, on more than 32 facilities. So prisons are broken into facilities that are basically like prisons in and of themselves because people can't interact between them. So 32 facilities, as well as 2 youth detention facilities and a naval prison, a naval brig. And it's actually more than 9,000 people. We're in the midst of figuring out our counting, and it's growing by the day, but more than 9,000 people since then. And this is where, just to give you a little bit of a sense, some of our team were really wise about helping create this and show the impact and the depth about where we are. So we're up here at Pelican Bay. That's where Mark and some other team members have programming. Folsom, California State Prison in the Sacramento region, California Women's Facility, Avenal, and Corcoran in the Fresno region, and about to add back in another one in that region. Barry J. Nordorf Juvenile Hall, and we're previously at Eastlake Juvenile Hall, the Naval Brig in Miramar, Richard J. Donovan Prison, and then here in the Inland Empire, the men's and the women's and the Rehabilitative Center, and then way down south at Ironwood and Centinela in Blythe and the Imperial Valley. So just to give you a sense of scope, would somebody like to read Antonio's quote? Who can read it? Can somebody have a loud voice that can read it? Okay. Yay, thank you. Oh, you want to read it, Dean?
All right, sure.
Thanks.
This is from Antonio, a participant. I think this class is a wonderful opportunity to learn and bring out something positive out of us. This class has helped me with my rehabilitation in many ways. For example, meditation, relaxation, how to learn the different types of art, how to use and blend paint, but overall is how to bring out my hidden talent I didn't know I had.
Thank you. Thank you so much for popping in. Nice to hear from different folks. And now with that, we also are going to hear from Ginny, who's one of our team members. She started off as a research assistant when she was in a doctoral program. And she has just gone on to do pretty much everything you can possibly do in PAC. I was like, what can you not do? And she's now in our leadership circle. And here is a bit from Ginny.
You know, this world is really busy. By design, it's easy to forget that prisons exist, that people in prisons exist, and that people who are in prison are still people.
And that was Teresa, one of my colleagues at SDSU. We don't have her quote here, but you'll see it if you see the whole movie. So I think that's just a really important, I saw some nods and some like yeses, because that's such an important thing for us to, think about and keep in our mind. It's easy for us because we work with our students all the time and know and see and hear their ideas. But I think when you don't go into these spaces, it's easy. Oh, thank you. It's maybe easier to forget. So here's a little bit about our methodology. Might not be the most exciting, but I think it's important and maybe will be exciting for some of you. So we do engage in collaborative planning and throughout everything that we do. So that's both with our administration as well as with our teaching. Almost all of our classes are taught by teams of teachers, whether it be a teaching artist with a teaching assistant, whether it be a faculty member with a student. We also have quite a few of our teaching team who are currently incarcerated, so we have peer facilitators, and we try in all of our decision making to gather input from all of the different sources and groups and perspectives that work with us. We also are focused on development of both interpersonal and intrapersonal skills through art. So it's the art making, yikes, sorry, almost fell over. It's the art making, but also what comes out of that, identity, confidence. What I hear more than anything else, and where we kind of really landed on based on art as a human right, is people saying that they feel like human when we come. And sort of wild, like I never really thought about that. It feels like a privilege that I didn't think about the fact that I'm human, you know what I mean? But it is like a privilege if we didn't have to pause and go, oh, my humanity, right? So the fact that they felt that is really, it means a lot to a lot of us. Christy, our assistant director, was just saying recently she visited a few sites, and that was the one thing she's still, hearing from a lot of folks, that they feel human when we come and when they participate in the art. So lastly, we have a cohesive, integrated approach to arts education, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I'll move on. So this is our programming. This is what we do. We have a 4-part model. All of our classes include 4 parts. The creation of a safe space so that everyone can feel confident making art and being in the space together and talking about it. Art history or culture. And this one came about pretty early on because a lot of the, obviously the people who take our classes are very isolated. And a lot of times I would see a piece of art they were making, say, oh, that reminds me of, like Karita, or like, I don't know, that's who's in my mind, like Andy Warhol or whoever. And they don't know because they don't have access to that. So for us to bring in the art history and the culture, it helps them to see themselves as part of a larger story. And so that's really the basis of the art history piece. Art making, obviously, or creative practice. We have visual art, music, theater, creative writing. Sometimes we don't have it currently. Yoga, collaborative work. We have a lot of different styles of art, and reflection. So the opportunity to talk about your own work and your peers' work. So those 4 elements are in every single class. Our teaching teams can create whatever class makes sense for their experience and their participants, but they do include these 4 parts. And then the theory the theoretical context, the theory behind it. There's quite a bit of research around, well, there's actually not as much research as we might think around the impact of the arts on health and wellness, but a study just came out last year from the UK that was a really comprehensive study that did show in depth the ways that the arts do improve health and wellness for youth, seniors, and people suffering from illness. So it's super interesting. So that came out recently. Larry Brewster, Dr. Larry Brewster, one of my mentors and amazing scholar, was one of the first people to ever do any types of research on the impact of the arts on people who are incarcerated. So have definitely learned from that, as well as a lot of different feminist theorists and writers who talk about and also Paulo Freire, who you may know, the Brazilian educator. And so all of those are just some of the influences around how we work, like placing the person over the product, placing like the idea of collaboration over a hierarchical structure, which is super weird when you work in a prison, which is like basically the definition of a hierarchy. But we try to create kind of like a circle within these squares. So I'm going to leave it at that because it's kind of a lot, but happy to share more if anyone's interested. So we do have these multidisciplinary classes. I already spoke a little bit about what the classes are and the collaborative teaching teams. So I'm going to move on. One of the projects that we were able to do specifically through the NEA, which was really exciting, is these collaborative workshops. So I noticed that most of our artists, they're very much working in their own space on their own project, because that's basically their lives is very linear in terms of being a person who's institutionalized in these spaces. So I wanted to think about how can we make something together. So for the collaborative workshops, we teach the process of collaboration, and we show examples of artworks of people who have worked as a team or worked together to create something. And then oftentimes, because I've actually taught, we have so many teachers now, but I've taught several of these, and people at first are like, what, I don't understand, like, what am I gonna do? Which is kind of any of us, right? When we start together to make something as a group, it's hard to envision the end because it's not just your idea, it's gonna come out of the whole. And it's really beautiful, but it takes a little time. So those are really fun. So that's one of the these are some of the examples of the beautiful works they've done. This one, let's see. This is the most recent one. And the artist created a theatrical piece and an installation inside the prison. And then one of my colleagues at SDSU, Jess Humphrey, who's a professor of dance, she taught her students at SDSU the same project we taught inside. And then they made a dance in response to the work that the students had done inside the prison. So that's what you see over here with these lovely photos by Peter Mertz, who did most of the photos you'll see throughout here, who's an amazing photographer and longtime board member of PAC. Somebody want to read Angels?
I'll take it away.
Okay.
From Angel, another PAC participant, I've learned many things, such as how to work effectively and positively as a group. We were able to come together as a group and build something from scratch to something beautiful. I was able to use and improve my communication and social skills.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I hope that you hear, a little bit the voices of our participants and our team members. And I think we have another video. Oh, not yet. Okay. So this is one of our most unique programs. I love this program, but probably because it comes out of like all the work that I do with teacher training and education, and then also just because I've seen this massive transformation that happens. This is a 6-month teacher training for people who are currently incarcerated to then facilitate their own classes. So we do have many teachers who are currently incarcerated, our peer facilitators, and then our teaching team from the outside goes in and we provide mentorship, supplies, professional development. It's so cool. And I've also taught, many people teach these now, definitely not just me, but when I first started teaching them, what I noticed the most is people would come in and they're like, what? I don't understand. I'm gonna teach? no, I'm going to learn to paint, right? Like I thought I was going to play guitar. And because communication's a little wild in prison. They don't always know what they're there for. They just know they've come for art. Sometimes they know it's a teacher training. So anyway, the shift that happens from this sort of thinking of themselves as like a participant to seeing that empowerment and seeing themselves as a leader and a mentor and a teacher, it's so powerful. And we have just these absolutely incredible teachers who come out of this program. Some of them, like Mark, who you saw earlier, he originally was a facilitator. He's obviously out now and free and not, but when he created a class on creative writing and making amends. So it was like this super interesting integration that we probably, like I myself, not having been incarcerated, wouldn't have thought of that. So we get sometimes some creative ideas. So that's some of our peer facilitators at Calipatria. Let's see. Uh-oh. I think you told me that if it gets stuck, what I should do. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. You had the magic touch. Okay, so this is another of our participants. So the film, we were able to film in 3 prisons. We were gonna film in 6. We were very ambitious, and they were like, you can only film in 1. But we ended up, I don't know, I'm very persistent. And they were gracious because we worked with them for a while. So we ended up being able to film in 3. So this is one of our facilitators.
Poetry and expression emotions was kind of, in a sense, viewed as a weakness. And, in a prison environment, weaknesses are definitely something to stay away from, because nobody wants to be deemed a victim, and it's unfortunate because there is a level of strength in vulnerability that, for myself, I found that I didn't get to experience for a large portion of my incarceration. I've been incarcerated for 23 years, and I hid behind a facade of, masculinity and just a sense of anger, because I didn't know how to process and express my emotions, and through poetry and actually sharing my poetry, I was able to see that not only was I in tune with my emotions, but other people could empathize with them. And there was a connection that was built in within people that we thought we were completely different. I found that in expressing my work to others and listening someone share theirs, we encourage each other to grow.
So that's super powerful, and I think that Jasmiel's way of expressing it was such a clear example, probably more than what I've said for the past 40 minutes, because it gives you that direct picture of the impact of like being in that space and what that meant for him, and how the arts could help him, find that humanity and that vulnerability. And just another shout out for just these photos, because I think that through Peter Mertz, through his work, is able to really also humanize the participants here and in many other programs, because we don't usually see pictures like this of prison, right? Like you don't, and we've talked, like he's like, I don't want it to show, that it's all positive or whatever, but the impact of these classes, it really is like a little oasis. So I think it's important to recognize that. So just a few more things, and then I'm gonna wrap up. So we also have guest artist workshops. This is a way for people who are not regularly participating in the program to come in and speak about their work, guest lectures. We have faculty from different disciplines who've gone in and given their expertise. We have one of my colleagues, Brian Heisterkamp from San Bernardino, who's the lead of our research study. He also went in and taught interview skills because he's a professor of communication. That was really interesting. So there's different types of things that can be beneficial. Oh, and I did want to add, I forgot to say in the research, but we do have a study approved through the state of California where we're looking at the impact of the art on wellness for people who are incarcerated. So we're getting close after a few years to having some results to show what we know, but to show it more empirically. And then Is this finally? This is finally. Okay. We also have exhibitions and books that we've done over time. Someone was asking, I think, Pamela, I think it was you asking, I don't know where you are, but before, yeah, about like our exhibitions and our books and our artwork and like, is it for sale? And we do have a lot of artwork. We have a pretty significant archive now, but our main focus is about the practice and the classes. And so we don't have like a significant team or time dedicated to exhibitions and books. So it's something that we'd like to grow in and that we do, we are interested to find like volunteers or collaborators who would want to support that because we have done it over the years and we continue to do it. It's a part of our work, but it's not like our main focus. But it comes out of an interest from the participants. So pretty much everything that we do comes out of an interest from the participants. For example, we started at the men's prison. One of my grad students was like, how about a women's prison? So then I looked and I found one and we applied and we started out of their interest. We did an exhibit and the artists in the classes were asking, can you show our art? You know, we want to show people that we're human, that we're not all evil, which was kind of striking to hear, but I said, wow, you know, okay. So then we did, and the very first show was at CB1 Gallery, which is no longer here in LA, but Clyde Beswick, the owner, was super open and excited and offered to show the work in the gallery. And it was so beautiful because it was a gorgeous contemporary art gallery in downtown LA. And the opening included, you know, family members of the artists, our team, just the regular art-going audience. It was just such a big mix, similar to the Bridging Homeboy show at Ben Malt's gallery at Otis that I showed earlier. So it's such a way for people to come together across different fields, which I think is super important. So some of the other shows we've done, this one is Beyond the, that was Through the Wall, that was the first one. The next one was Beyond the Blue, which we also had at CB1, but we made an effort to show it. Oh, sorry, is that me? Am I doing that? Okay. Okay. So our second big show was called Beyond the Blue, and we had a goal to show it at all of the, sorry. Okay. So we had a goal to, it's almost done too, so it's fine. We had a goal to show the artwork at galleries or community spaces near the prisons, so that and it was one of my students, one of my college students who thought of this. I thought it was so beautiful, so that family members and friends from the community could see the show. So we took Beyond the Blue, the Lancaster Museum of Art and Art History, which was near the prison out there. We were able to show it there. It was a beautiful College of the Desert art gallery. So many Homegirl Cafe, we showed it there. We showed it multiple places, and then we also were able to show it outside Governor Newsom's office in Sacramento. When he first came into office, the PAC artwork was outside the office, so it was really, really wonderful. Okay, I think that's about it. So you already heard about this. We're based at the Institute at San Diego State Institute for Arts, Humanities, and Social Justice. We're funded by primarily the California Arts Council. That's our biggest funder, but also National Endowment for the Arts. And we are a coordinating organization for arts and corrections with the California Arts Council, and we are based at San Diego State University with partners at Cal State San Bernardino and Cal Poly Humboldt. I think I already spoke about that. So we have had some cool press, which was nice. The Guardian newspaper wrote an article about us when we did a collaboration with a talent agency in the UK, this wild thing that came up during the pandemic. You know, one of the positive things of a pandemic is that I think people who didn't usually connect were in touch, and this talent agency who represents these big names reached out to us, and we ended up having them create a packet for us with their artists, and we sent it into the prison. And so anyway, that was super exciting. So that's partly how we got that, and different articles. And then we do have this, the research study I told you about, and we do have 2 white papers talking about some of the results so far that happy to share if people are interested. And Brooke Florian, I don't know if she's on the call, but she's our communications coordinator, and she organized all of this and has us all in all these socials where please follow, because she has like so much great content about PAC that she shares for us. So please follow. And that's me if you want to find me. Thank you.
Annie, thank you so much. So you still have your headgear, if we can open it up for questions, and you'll have some answers.
Sure, I hope
And
so.
also from our Zoom, so you'll let us know if we have anybody. We ask that you
Oh.
just wait for the microphone, because that will enable our Zoomers to hear what everyone's saying. Questions, anyone? Oh,
I'm going to go through to the, oh no, it can't. I was going to put it on the left.
Thank you so much for this, Annie. It was incredible. I'm wondering what, with the new administration and the cuts to the arts, how that's going to affect your work.
So very fortunately for us, our main funder is the California Arts Council, which is incredible. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful to them. For like the first 2 years, we didn't have any funding, which in a way like was a lot easier, to be honest with you. But it was really small, and I was just using my time as a faculty member and service time, and students were using their time, you know, as earning credit or volunteering. So it was actually a simpler time, to be honest. But as our students from the university started graduating, they want to continue. I want to hire them. And, you know, we want to grow and expand. And obviously that all takes money. So we did get funding from CDCR. I realize we don't have their logo up there, but we'll add it. So California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is one of our funders. They were the first grant that I got beyond the university funding and grants that we get. And then California Arts Council. So those are the main funders. So I'm, you know, who knows, because we don't know what's going to happen with the state budget. But as of now, we're good. The only funding I have outside of that is for the NEA. I think I've gotten 4 or 5 arts grants for the NEA. And we're just finishing up our last one. It ends June 30th. We also had the inaugural research grant in the arts, but that got cut. So that's the only one that I had that got cut, and we got the letter saying, you know, you have to end this May 31st, blah, blah, blah. And it was rough, honestly, because obviously we have some staff depending on that, and our research study depending on that. It was really weird to read, like the new priorities, but I don't want to get too into that. But anyway, that's the only one that got cut so far, and so we're hopeful. Yeah, and hopefully the Pell will continue, because most of our BA students, it's not PAC, but with the VISTA program, most of our students do get Pell, so hopefully. But CDCR also does a lot of grants. We have a good, probably as many grants right now directly from CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, as California Arts Council, so. Hopefully, it will stay. I don't want to say, because then, like, knock on wood, tomorrow I'll be like, oh no, they're all gone. Because you never know. That's like the times we're in, but hopefully not. We have like through 2 years at least right now.
Okay, so we do have people on Zoom as well that have questions. So it looks like right now, Nan, if you could please unmute and you can ask your question straight to Annie.
Thanks so much. Oh, thank you for your work, Annie. It's really inspirational. For a number of years, I served as a chaplain in the women's prison in Malibu. It's a firefighting camp, Fire Camp 13. And we were only allowed to go in at night because they work all day, and it's not like usual prison protocol. They're out in the field or hiking and walking. And it was frustrating. I tried a few times to have some events or a workshop, and was stymied by the problem of just visiting at night. Have you had any contact with the fire camps? Because I think they would love it. They're the best women, and they're so loving and supportive, and they really have shaped themselves into a great community of firefighters and women.
Thank you. Thank you for that work and your question. And it's so cool because I hadn't seen who's on Zoom before. So hi, Zoom. I see my sister and I see a friend from Otis, who I haven't seen in forever, so shout out to you guys and some of our team. Anyway, hi, Zooms. I didn't see you before.
Well, all the cool kids are on.
Okay, so Nan, no, I'm gonna answer you. I'm sorry. Okay, I heard and I also saw. Okay, so that's so interesting. I love that you did that. Thank you for that. Oftentimes the chaplains in these prisons are just, like yourself, like they're so helpful and they're so engaged and they're such a lifeline for people, so thank you. We have not, but we did talk about going to the fire camps. The only reason we were talking about it is because the participation in the women's prison in Chino, maybe a little bit in Chowchilla too, they just seem to be a little smaller. I don't know why. We've never figured this out why. We've been there probably like 9 years, and it's always less than the men's prison, but there's always a long waiting list, and they love it. Like it's very, I don't know, they just have a lot more options, weirdly. The women's prisons, they have a lot of programs in the women's prisons. So once we talked about doing one in the fire camps when they were low, but we didn't end up doing it, but we definitely would consider it. One thing that we do is we try to go where there's no other programs. So that is like the guiding light, like when we go to a prison, if they already have, like one of them in Lancaster has like a beautiful art studio. So they want us to go there, but we were like, well, they already have that, like what else? And then we ended up going to these other two high security arts that had no program. So, but we would be super open to it, so.
Maybe we can be in touch because these women have virtually nothing. They just work and work so hard in the field all day, come home exhausted. And then it was just an honor that they would come to pray in the evening.
Well, maybe we'll be able to start with that. Thank you. I see some of our other teams, so we'll take note and maybe try to add it.
Okay.
It's a good, I hadn't thought about that. Thank you.
Me? Bill? Bill? Yeah, okay. So I've worked in chaplaincy in a couple of prisons, and I know correctional staff is always resistant to, well, at least to us, there was always this like heavy kind of resistance to us doing anything other than, like in my case, just simple worship, or sometimes just 30 seconds at each cell door. And what kind of resistance? I noticed in one of the slides you said that there was actually some artwork by correctional officers. And so what kind of reception have you had by correctional staff?
So it varies. I don't think we have any artwork by correctional staff, so I don't know where that, maybe, but anyway, it varies. Personally, I have seen change over time. Like, we started at the Chino men's prison and then the Chino women's, and now we're in a lot of places, and I don't teach the regular classes. We have so many different team members who are teaching, and I go and I visit. But so I don't have like a full picture, but I will say, like anecdotally for myself, I have seen change over time for sure, from when we started to now. Like there used to be a little bit more resistance to us coming in and doing this. And then, but I don't know, actually, I take that back. It has changed. Okay, so the California state prison system has changed and is more open to it. 100% structurally, yes. But it's down to people, right? Like I always talk with all of our team, like we do work with systems, but people make up systems, and we work with people. And if those people in the prison, some of them are very helpful and really open, and even times like make sure our classes happen, and some of them not so much and make it more difficult. So it really is like, I'd say that systemically it's changed over time, but on the ground, it's pretty consistent that there's some people who are supportive and then some who really are not. But I do think it's sad when some of them are supportive and then they get kind of like bullied and stuff. Like that does happen too, and I think that's like super sad and unfortunate because that's just the culture. But I'm not in that culture, so I can't speak to it. And we work with them, and we wouldn't be able to do anything we do without them. So that's the best we can do. But thank you for all that you're doing too.
Annie, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and your excellent work. I'm Bob Williams. I'm here at the staff of the Episcopal Diocese, and your paths may have crossed with our prison ministry, which is called PRISM, like looking through a prism. seems to resonate, and I'll be sure that your information is passed along to those chaplains as well, so they know of your work. Lastly, I wanted to say, for the benefit of the group, I think this is the first time you've been here since we've had a new art installation here in the Great Hall. And it just dovetails beautifully with the Immaculate Heart logo and so on and so forth. The exhibit is called In the Key of Heart, and it is a riff on Stevie Wonder's song, of course, and it pays tribute to Bishop John Harvey Taylor, who will be retiring next summer. And so his ministry theme was and is feeding hungry hearts. So you see around the room, certainly Corita and other ministry partners here represented. The neon heart is by David Otis Johnson. It's called Krypton Heart. And I'm not sure if the krypton and neon is going around right now, but if it's plugged in properly, it will. And the heart right behind the lectern is by an artist named Cindy Sanchez, who is a board member of our Neighborhood Youth Association that sends under-resourced students to college with full scholarships. And then over here in the back wall, we have David Davis from All Saints Beverly Hills. He's an architect. So this all gets at the heart and the Immaculate Heart and all the heart that's in your great work. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got one on Zoom that we'll go ahead and read out real quick from Daniel. What challenges do incarcerated artists face when trying to express themselves authentically within a carceral environment? Is art censored on the inside?
Can you read it one more time? Sorry.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely a multi-part. What challenges do incarcerated artists face when trying to express themselves authentically within a carceral environment? To follow up with that, is art censored on the inside?
Okay, that's a good question. So, I mean, that's what we do in our classes, is try to help that open up. So I think kind of to the earlier question about the officers, like it's kind of hard to generalize. There's some artists who come into our classes who are like really open and vulnerable and want to express like their life and their story, and there's more often people who are much more like closed and resistant, which makes sense given the environment that they live in. So we always try to give different opportunities for people to like evolve and develop over time and come out of, you know, at the pace that works for them. There's some, like one thing I noticed when I first started going inside is that people do a lot of beautiful realistic work, like beautiful portraits, parrots, landscapes, flowers, tigers, you know, all these gorgeous, very realistic art, which, you know, I come from the world of contemporary art, which there's not a lot of realistic art and not a lot of people, I don't know how to do it, and I have 2 degrees in art. So there's a whole skill and a whole culture of art inside there, which I think makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people who aren't sort of steeped in art or art history, that's kind of what they know of as art, right? That thing that looks real. So there's a lot of skill there, and so we encourage that, but then we also, that's another reason we brought the art history to go, here's all these other ways you can work, and we would start seeing people explore and experiment and do surrealism and abstraction and different things, so that's really fun. So I think it depends, and then for the last part, I don't know, censorship, it's super interesting because I always think like, we can't bring certain art in, right? So we can't bring in art that's like nudes or violence or weapons, drugs. We can't bring that in, and they can't make that. So to some extent, yes, that is a censored. But to me, I just see it a little differently, like the opposite. Like if we weren't there, they wouldn't have any. So that seems like a more extreme censoring, to like not have any art than to have all this art except. So that's kind of the way that I think about it. But yeah, they can't, there's certain things that they can't have in their artwork, like drug paraphernalia, violence, nudity.
Thank you so much, Annie, for being with us today. Not only have you shared about the art, but also I was just so struck by your way of doing the work, the model that you use. You talk about circles of leadership. You talked about, I don't think you called it a class, maybe you did, in collaboration. And this is all being done within a really hierarchical structure. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about how we support those values. And a lot of us here work with not-for-profits, how you support that. So that's one. And my second question would be, I had the privilege of living in Nicaragua for a while, and Ernesto Cardenal was so strong on the arts, not only poetry, but murals, and how to incorporate that in, one, to bring about a revolution, but also to support the revolution afterwards. A lot of us here are activists, so my question would be, how can we take the arts to demonstrate in those ways what needs to change and how to support that change?
Okay. Oh my gosh, such good questions. I know I have to take a moment to think, but also I love your work so much, and it's so nice to see you here. Okay, the first one. So it's interesting because I work for a university in the Cal State system, and I work with prisons. So these are the two biggest bureaucracies in the state of California, I think. And so I just think of it as a challenge. I think because I'm an artist, it's interesting to take a problem and go, how do we do this? So I think that's part of it. And most of the team that I work with, most of our team, I was thinking about this on the way over, like we're mostly pretty sensitive and like emotional, like in general, not all of us, but overall. And so, but we're just super dedicated to making this happen. So we're like, okay, let's just do what it takes within these boundaries, within these constrictions. So that's one thing. But the other thing is I think it's a process. Like it's never perfect. You know, there's always issues and problems and challenges, and we just have to like take them one at a time and see how do we get through that. And just also like for myself, just always like asking, okay, I don't know, did I do this right? Should I have said this different? Like, how do I bring people in, you know? And I think all of us do that, probably too much. I feel like we could all like relax more, but we're all very like reflective, I think. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I do notice that a lot. So I think those things are important. The other thing, this kind of is like a bridge between the two questions, but when we first started, there was a young man in our class, Ezekiel. He's still he's doing amazing work, but he got out and he was immediately sent to Mexico. So he made a life there, which I'm super excited for him, but it was a very difficult transition. So anyway, when he was younger, he was at juvenile hall and he knew my mom. And then when I came to prison, my mom came with me and he met her there. So it was this wonderful circle. It was very interesting. Like we've known him over time in different situations, and it's really nice to see where he's grown. But when he was younger, I remember him saying to me, he was very active in trying to get our program going and get supplies and get everything we need and like, let's go, like, let's make it work. And whenever there would be an obstacle, he'd want to solve it. And he says to me, Annie, like, why don't you go to the warden? You know, we got to get these supplies. They're not coming in. Go to the warden. That's what everybody else does. You know, you're the Hefa, he says to me. And I was like, oh, Ezekiel. So as a teacher, I was like, this is such a like learning moment, or teachable moment, I guess they call it. So I said, you know, I get that. I do. And I could, and I have, and sometimes I have to go to the warden or other people in CDCR. I mean, certainly I'm sure they would all be like, you come to us, like I do sometimes, but not that often. I try like to go through the systems and go through the people. And I said to him, I said, Ezekiel, you know, I could do that, but we have this collaborative model where we try to work with our partners here and we try to talk to them, and it's gonna take a little bit longer, but we're gonna try that way first. And I feel like that's kind of a good example, because most of us in the society, we don't live in that model of like collaboration and take your time. We live in the model of like go to the boss or whatever. So I was trying to like show him a different way. So I hope that addresses that. And the last piece is, I mean, did we go to the protests and see all those handmade signs? Like, I think that's one way that the arts can go out there. And I also think that we're just one step. Like, a lot of people, when they come to us, they want to, you know, well, I always try to tell people, if you want to, like, topple the prison system, like, go, like, please, go forth. But you probably can't do that, like, with us, because we're going inside there and we have to work with them. So I think everybody has to like pick what they can do and do that thing, and just know that we're all doing something, because we can't all do all of it. You're welcome.
Hi. My
Hi.
question came up when you said that certain things cannot be shown in the art that they make. You said violence, you said drug paraphernalia, you said, but then you also talked about how the arts allow vulnerability and expression. So how do you deal with that censorship in creating the sense that you can share and you can express and you can be honest and you can be vulnerable if those elements that are censored are where the majority of the conflict is and the struggle and the emotion, like like violence can be emotional violence, can be trauma, can be what happened to you in the past. If that's all not there, how do you deal with the being honest and vulnerable and that kind of thing? Is my question, is it clear, like,
yeah.
how do you gap that lack that you can't express that?
It's super interesting because it's totally clear, but it's also like 99% of the time not an issue because the people were like, you're going from like fallow ground with nothing to like something. And so that something is so big and bright that the few little things that don't fit in the something kind of don't come up even. And they know as well that they can't do that, so they find another way to express what they want to express. I also think that people are complicated and layered, right? They don't only want to, some people are like I remember this one student, he made these beautiful paintings of his village where he was from in another country, I don't remember which country. And another student who made these like cartoons, and then another student who made portraits of like family members, and then another one who did these really dark, surreal dreams, probably to address like what you're getting at. But the one who did the cartoons, he's like, Annie, like, I like making these cartoons. Like, I don't want to make that dark stuff. I live here. Like, it's so dark. I don't want that. Like, I want art to be my bright spot. So everyone's different. So I think to think that, like, if they can't have that, it's not effective, it's not really like that. Like, they all need different things. So it hasn't really come up. But when it has come up, we try to encourage people to have a different, express it in a different way. Yeah, we kind of like that idea of censorship, it's only kind of an outside idea. It's not like something that ever comes up inside.
So it's making me
Their whole
think
lives are
about,
censored. But anyway, go ahead.
sorry. It's making me think about Carita's pedagogy or, ways of teaching art that she always said it's important to have a structure, like instead of, giving them some watercolors or whatever and say, okay, go for it, do whatever you want. But by giving a structure and some kind of, boundaries or whatever, that it helps people to move forward in creativity. So, and even I imagine that there's a limit on what materials you can use, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we did that program I was telling you about, we couldn't use scissors, of course, or, just certain things. So it provides a structure for them to create their art in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that one thing I learned when I first started teaching at Hoover, like so long ago, is there's something, the blank page is actually like exciting for me, like that's who I am. I'm like an artist, I want to imagine and make, I've always done that. But for some people, it's actually scary. And so you have to like create, for us, we make our classes for everyone, so we have to create those structures. And our model of the 4 parts is kind of a structure for the teachers, whether incarcerated or not, to like fit their ideas into. But yeah, we try to layer the projects in such a way that they have that opportunity. Hello.
I have 2 questions, but I heard you say you can't do everything. So my first question, what about detention centers? Have you thought of going there? And then it occurred to me, my second question, how about people in power, the wardens, the military, the National Guard, the Marines who are near you? Is there any way to humanize them, teach them the communication skills, social skills, collaboration that come with the experience of art?
I love that question. And so, yeah, we haven't done detention centers. Again, we're all grant funded, so we'd kind of create our programs based on the grants, like the facilitator, the teacher training, that program, I love that program. It came out of like a grant that wanted to bring programming to distant facilities that didn't have any program. So it made sense, oh, let's empower them to teach. So it kind of comes like that. So if we came across something that supported, you know, that, and also at this point, I think it would also be like one of our team or someone coming to us saying, oh, I want to do that and sort of take the leadership on that. Because right now we're growing so much that we do have different like leaders in different regions and for different priorities. We do have our program at the Naval Brig, which is not for the naval officers. Well, they are naval officers, but they're the ones in prison. So we do have that one. We did lose our funding for that one. That is a federal one, so there you go. But hopefully we could continue because they really loved it. But more to the heart of your question, I think, is this idea of the people in power. So I don't know, it's super interesting because we have tried from the beginning to like engage the officers and the staff, but they are not allowed to participate. Like even the ones who want to, they're like, Annie, you don't understand. Or if it's me, like, or whoever they're talking to of our team, they'll be like, you don't understand, like, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm doing what I can do by being here. So it's such a tight line. But we did have classes for officers once, but then no one came, so we stopped. But it's probably after work and they weren't paid. I don't know, maybe we should have like paid classes, maybe that would help. And then I do know some of my colleagues in Arts and Corrections in California have done some classes for officers. It's a little bit tricky to, you know, engage and get people to come, but it's something that we're always working on and open to ideas and input. Yeah. Okay.
Sister Mary Sean, I'm a Dominican, but I'm a strong, strong admirer of the Immaculate Heart community and have been always. My sister is Immaculate Heart high school graduate. And I haven't ever thought of this before, but the gift that McIntyre was all those years ago to the world community. What a gift to give us your form of religious life that is so inclusive. And if the whole church could be so inclusive, maybe that could be your next project. Then we could have the church that is meant to be. We have the Partnership for Reentry program ourselves. It's been around almost for 25 years. And we go into all of the California prisons and we in a lot of out-of-state prisons. And we do our healing through correspondence courses. And the broadness of what you do just reminds me of having been a teacher in elementary school where a student learns, a person learns by the method that applies to them. And ours works for some. But then there's a whole group where it doesn't work because it isn't how they learn. And so I just really applaud what you do and the broadness of how you do it. We ourselves have art shows in many parishes. They are, I've tried to get into All Saints Episcopal and hope to still do that, but mostly into the Catholic parishes. And we have an art show mostly once a month. And our big thing is, besides selling, and it's all inmate art. And what we do is advocacy. All of our staff has all been in prison. Our director was 32 years in prison, and he's the executive director. And so it's giving back. So it is beautiful, and I just want to say how great it is to be here and with all of you.
Thank you, sister. I'm so glad we finally were able to connect it. I was searching for you for a while. I just want to mention, then I'll see if there's any other questions, that Annie, I got reacquainted with Annie through an exhibit through Prison Arts Collective at the Wend Museum in Culver City. And if any of you haven't been there, I encourage you to go. It was art from incarcerated Ai Weiwei's art was there, Pussy Riot was there, Carita Art was there. There was an exhibition, but it's a really powerful, powerful museum, beautiful outdoor space. I heard Susan Burton from A New Way of Life speak there. So it's an amazing place if you want to explore a little bit more of the art and the capacity for humanity we all hold. Okay, that was it. Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom or in person? I see, no? Lenore? No.
Oh,
Thank you so much for what you do. My question is, do your participants stay in touch with you guys? Do you guys stay connected and kind of follow, what happens to them or stuff like that? Or maybe they come and volunteer with your organization and give back themselves?
yes, some of them for sure. Our staff does include alumni, like Mark, who you saw speak, is one of our teaching artists, and he was originally in the program. And we have other staff as well, currently and over time, who were in the program, who then came out and work with us. Some who intern or volunteer, some who have staff or leadership positions. So there's that. That's the main one. We also do have an alumni network that we bring folks. We have once a month. My colleague Teresa leads it, and we have it once a month where they could join on Zoom or in person. And then we also have, people reach out all the time. The people who reach out more so are the ones who are in the facilitator training and did which makes sense, right? Because they're teachers on our team. So they're the ones who reach out the most. But yeah, I mean, there's probably 20 plus people that I still talk to regularly who are in our program, either involved or involved in some other way in working in the community. And then in the film, we have several who are alumni, and then also, what was I gonna say? We had a grant. One of our grants from the Arts Council a couple of years ago was to develop trainings, and so we hired alumni to help co-develop one of the trainings, so that was really cool. And we have another alumni who's working on it. So yes, in different ways, and it's really lovely, but not everyone. There's, of course, some people. One of my former students, he came to one event early on and he spoke, and then after he was like, I just want to we still are in touch, but not for events or whatever, because he's like, I just want to move on and have my life. I'm like, go, be forth. Don't worry, you don't have to be connected in that way. I think sometimes there's an assumption that because someone's in prison, they have to speak that and advocate that, but it's their choice. So I'm always wait a little bit until you self-identify that way when you first get out, because maybe a little later you won't want that to be your whole identity. Whereas others, they wear it proudly and are there for others and want to do that. So thank you. All right.
Okay, well, Annie, thank you so much, and to your team and for all the work that you do, and to your high school friends over there.
Band of power. Thank you, Michelle.
And there's lots of connections. I hope you will all mingle a little bit afterwards. In terms of what's coming up next, our next Lunch and Learn will be with our dear friend Bishop Dylan, and that will be on July 18th. And then we're also going to be at the Lotus Festival here in Echo Park on July 12th and 13th. So please, if you are not on our mailing list, take a bookmark and sign up. Take a card and become a friend of the heart so you can help us with all of our outreach. And I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all. Bye-bye.